All right. Okay, so we are 3 lines from the bottom. So we concluded that the world was created Bishvil Yisrael, Beis Reishis, and he mentioned very Oretz, V'odem Aleha Barosi. The Oretz, this is the whole lineage from Malchus. This is for the Bishvil HaOdom. And this explains why we call the day at Odom Rishon was created Tchilas Ma'asech, the beginning, because that is really where the real Ma'asecha started. Everything else was only preliminary. All right, let's continue. Hine, 3rd line from the bottom, right? The implication in this pasuk that we explained before, I made the earth, which means I made Malchus, as we explained, Malchus, which is all-encompassing. And then Odom Aleha Barosi, and Odom I created on this earth. And Barosi means for the sake of Taryag Mitzvahs. And that is the whole purpose of the creation. Hine. Lavad, so in this, the implication in this pasuk is, Lavad Zois, She'ha'odam Hamkayim Teiro Mitzvahs. In addition to the fact, besides the fact, that when the person who fulfills Teiro Mitzvahs, Hui Iker Mekuvan Habriya, he is the principal intent of the creation. Shebishviloi nivra ha'olam, which means that for his sake the world was created. Canal, as we explained before. Vahainu, which means, in more detail, sheha'oir v'achayes ha'oleki, that the godly light that gives chayes, that gives life to the world. Sheba bibchinas tzimtzum v'helam, that was put through a tzimtzum and a helam. A tzimtzum means a lessening, a contraction, and helam and concealment. Bibchinas malchus, within the element of malchus. Lahaves ha'olames ha'nivroim, to bring forth and to create the world and nivroim. Hu alidei ha'odam. That is accomplished through ha'odam, to the person, through man. In other words, Anoichi osisi oretz, ha'odam aleha barosi. So the first thing it means is that the Chayes Eliki that comes into Malchus, Oretz is Malchus, as we explained before, and Malchus is the pshad that the oir is behelem, and that helm of the oir facilitates, makes it possible to create a world and nivroim. And how is this accomplished? Through the person, because the Odom does Torah mitzvahs, and this effectuates the union that there should be this malchus, which ultimately makes it possible to create the world. So, just to elaborate on this summary a little bit, we already discussed this essentially, that world and nivroim and creatures, one of the principal definition of world, one of the principal definitions of creatures is that they stand on their own. They stand by themselves alone, on their own. Meaning that even though they were created, and even though essentially the creation continues, but they're totally, their functioning, their activities are totally independent of everything. They're on their own. Let's make a world in the creation. Now, in order to create that type of a world, where in fact an akus and godly light actually encompasses everything and is everywhere, how can it be that the godly light is everywhere and then there are creatures that are standalone, that don't depend on anything? That can only be as a result of the tzimtzum, of the concealment of the godly light, where it is not sensed, it is not obvious. Okay? Can you give him a Maidani? And this concealment is defined as the concealment that conceals b'pchinas malchus, in the element of malchus, in the spheres of malchus. This inyan that the concealment is b'pchinas malchus is a very deep and broad statement. But to...
You say that it's concealment through the spheres of malchus? Yeah?
What?
You say that concealment is achieved through the spheres of malchus?
Right.
Yeah. Thank you.
Everything is contained in malchus, and as a result of that, it can be concealed.
That's how every creature becomes a separate...
A mitzias. Right. I said to discuss this, definitively and conclusively is not the place. I just don't want to leave anything undefined. In case another word, malchus, call it whatever it is. What is the meaning? Concealed between malchus. So we explained yesterday, actually, and the day before, that malchus has a very unique quality, and that is that, just like in the case of a melech is present everywhere in his country, and at the same time he's absent. He's not so seen any place. He's not seen any place. His presence is concealed, but the effect of his presence is everywhere. If someone transgresses, you know what transgresses mean? Disobeys the rules of the land. So who did he offend? Why does he get punished? Because he offended the king. But the king isn't here. The king is here. This is the Inyan Malchus. As I said, this is a very rich Inyan. Hopefully, as we learn, we'll have a chance to discuss it more in detail. More definitively. So this is how Malchus enables, provides for creation of a world where there could be a Messias of a world, something that stands alone. And even though it stands alone, it still gets its chayus from Hashem. It cannot have a chayus from anything else. But how does it get its chayus? Through this sphere, through this element of Malchus, where it is, where the actual presence of Hashem is concealed. And that's how it becomes a nivra. We discussed this on Monday a little bit more definitively. So, what affects, what brings about that there should be this concealment in order to make it possible to create this world, the worlds in general? This is through the Odom, because of the Odom. Why? How is the Odom affected? Because Odom can do, the human being can do mitzvahs. And mitzvahs is something which, number one, mitzvahs is something which Hashem wants. The purpose of creation is that you should mitzvahs. And then there's another element in mitzvahs.
What could a person do through mitzvahs again?
What?
What could a person do through mitzvahs again?
No, he does mitzvahs. He's the only one who can do mitzvahs.
What does he do with that? What does he bring with that, you said? You said that he does mitzvahs, so therefore something happens?
As a result of doing mitzvahs, right. This, and because of his mitzvahs, this is why the oil is concealed within Malchus.
In order that he should be able to do it.
In order he should be able to do it, that's originally, and then as a result of him doing it, this is how it continues to be.
Every mitzvah continues to be.
That's right. Just like on Rosh Hashanah, we ask Hashem to become king. Why? On what basis? Because we're doing mitzvahs, he should be king. The union of mitzvahs, like we said the other day, Monday, that nothing can exist without some connection to Hashem, because He is the only real existence, the only source of existence. The world seems to be an independent entity. How does it exist? It connects to Hashem through the union of Malchus. Where is the union of Malchus reflect itself? Reflect? Where does the union of Malchus reflect itself in the world? It reflects itself in the world in the Torah mitzvahs that he didn't do. What is a mitzvah? A mitzvah is a command from the king. So that even though the king is actually concealed, but his commands are present in the world. And through his commands, he becomes present in the world, becomes king in the world. This is the unique aspect of a command, of a mitzvah. Want a cup of coffee? Will that help you? Go ahead. A mitzvah has a unique quality. Mitzvahs are essentially good things, you know. People follow mitzvahs, they do good things. But you can do good things because you feel good, because it's nice, it makes a good world. Mitzvahs have a different implication altogether. Mitzvah, the word mitzvah means command. And the principle in of the mitzvah is is that this is a godly command. This is not just its quality, that it does good. That is true, but this is not the principle in why we do mitzvahs. Do mitzvahs because Hashem commanded them. What does that imply when we say the godly command? It means that you recognize the godly presence. If the king is absent, what are you going to do? Why are you going to obey his command? Therefore, the mitzvahs is what brings the king, what creates the union of Malchus and brings the king into the world. And this is what makes it possible, it makes the creation of the world possible. Okay? So this is the, so to speak, the first and most obvious aspect in this, what's implied in the Posuk of Nechu, Sisi Oris Me'odom Malach Barosi. It says, besides that, Hine, however, behold, Yesh Bozeh Kavono Pnimis Yoiser. But there is also a deeper and more significant intent. Kavona Pnimis means, before we were talking about Vinyah Malchus, that which makes possible to create the world. Malchus makes the world possible. Kavona Pnimis means that which goes back to Hashem himself in the Pnimis. In other words, what is Hashem's intent? This is something which touches Hashem himself. So, in this, is actually expressing a much deeper inyan than the inyan of the Tzimtzum of Malchus. Kavon Pnim Bis Yeser. Behu, and what is it? It is Shalidei Ha'odom B'kiyam Teiro Mitzvahs, that through the effect of the Odom, of the person, in performing Torah mitzvahs, Nishlam is completed. Tachlis kavonoso yizborech b'brias ha'olam. The ultimate kavona that Hashem had in brias ha'olam, in creating the world. In other words, it is not just a facilitator that makes possible the creation of the world and brings it mitzamtzim in Malchus and makes the creation possible. But there's a much deeper inyan that with Torah mitzvahs, Eden actually accomplish and fulfill the deepest kavana intent in the creation Hashem had in the creation.
So what we're saying is that like not only Malchus, not only when you do mitzvahs like you're acknowledging Hashem's presence, but you're also revealing the intent of creation. Is that what you're trying to say?
We're still going to go into this Kavod Pnimis. The point is, the difference between these two, in a clear statement, is one is for the creation of the world. That mitzvahs make it possible to create the world, right? We said that. And then through mitzvahs, through Adam, the oil alaki is in Samson and Malchus, and through Malchus it comes to the world, and therefore the world can be created. That makes it possible to create the world. So this is talking about the creation of the world. Kavona Pnimis is talking about Hashem himself. Hashem's own intent in the creation of the world.
So when you're doing mitzvahs, you're bringing out that Kavona Pnimis?
You're fulfilling, you're accomplishing it. You're actually accomplishing it. Okay? Nishlam kavona pnimis, nishlam tachas kavona is born with bris oil. The ultimate kavona that Rebbe had in creation of the world is fulfilled and is accomplished through Torah mitzvahs. So we'll go a few lines and then we'll have it. V'hinei tachlis hakavono b'brias ha'olam. Because in fact, what is the ultimate intent in the creation of the world? This statement, what is the kavanah in the creation of the world? This is a very difficult statement. Because in fact, why did REBBE create the world? What does REBBE need the world for? Is REBBE missing? Is REBBE lonely without the world? What does he create the world for? What does he get out of the world? So we say that, of course not. The REBBE doesn't benefit from the world. But this is Hashem's desire. This is what Hashem wanted to do. This want is without reason. This want is because of his goodness, whatever it is that he wanted to do it. And what is this want? What is this desire that he wanted to fulfill? What is the ultimate intent in creation of the world? Who? It is Mashen Yis'ave HaKodesh Baruch Hu. It is HaKodesh Baruch Hu desired Li Yislo Yisborech Dira Betachtoin. That Hashem should have a Dira Betachtoin. We should have, so to speak, a dwelling place in the lowest worlds. And as I said, I'll go through a couple of lines, then maybe we'll try and discuss it a little bit. MAAMAR Hazal, and as the Chazal say, Al Posuk, the Chazal comment on the Posuk, where it says, Sheikov Amudei Sheish, Sheikov, this is a Posuk in Shir HaShirim. So Sheikov, that his supports, his beams, Amudei Sheish, are Amudim of marble. And the Chazal say, what is this referring to? Sheikov, that the word Sheikov refers to Zeh Ha'olam. That refers to the world. Why is the world called Sheikov? Shenishtoikik HaKodesh Baruch Hu Livroisai. That HaKodesh Baruch Hu Nishtoikik. Nishtoikik means he longed means he had a great desire. A great desire, and he was looking forward when he can fulfill that desire. So it's a longing. A person has a longing. HaKodesh Baruch Hu had a long desire to create the world. Amudei Sheish is the pillars of a sheish, of marble. What is that referred to? Shenivra l'shisha yomim. Sheish in this posuk, the simultaneous in the posuk, Amudei Sheish is marble. And the Chazal says Sheish also means 6. Shenivra l'shisha yomim. That it was created in 6 days. Why did Hashem have that tshuka, that desire? Ze ein onu yodim. That we do not know. What brought about this desire, that is beyond our reach of knowledge. Ach ze onu yodim. However, this we clearly do know. What do we know? Shenishtoikek, that he desired it. Opiro shenishtoikek HaKodesh Baruch Hu Libreisei. And what is the meaning of the word? That nishtoikek HaKodesh Baruch Hu Libreisei, HaKodesh Baruch Hu desired to create it. Who, the pirush of these words is, Sheyesh bozet shuko ho'atzmi de insoy baruch. That in this creation of the world is present a shuko atzmis, a desire that comes from the essence of Ein Sof Baruch Hu, to create the world. All right, so let me try and discuss this briefly. First, I will discuss from back to the front. Chuko Atzmis. This is also a concept that we've discussed in the past. Chuko Atzmis is a phenomenal. You know what phenomenal means? Is a very impressive element. This is one of the principal moments, principal elements that point directly to a godly presence in the world. Because the world is as such, you with me? The world as such, everything in the world has a reason. Nothing in the world is there in and of itself. Why is this watch here? Because I need to know the time. Why do I need to know the time? Because if I stay all the time, I'm going to get thrown out of this over here. Everything has a reason. One thing leads to another. One thing leads to another. In human life, why do we eat? Because we're hungry. And we get hungry when we get weak, when we need to support ourselves. We don't do anything in the physical arena for its own sake. Not even such a basic thing as eating. There's no such thing. I'm eating because I'm eating. I'm eating because of some benefit that I'm getting out of it.
Yeah, but sometimes you eat because you're bored, or
Well, the benefit you're getting out of it is that you're not bored anymore.
okay, that's what I was thinking. But like, it's not real. It's not purpose.
What?
I'm saying, like when you do. Sorry, so when you have a time to do something, right? So
If you have a time to do something, there is something that causes the time.
what's up?
Something that brings about a time. If you're reading because you're bored, so you want to keep occupied and take away your boredom. Okay, this is generally the way things are in the world. Okay, and this element is so real in the world that to the extent that the scientists who study nature, study the world, who study nature beyond, even the human being, even the living species, they say, since that we are in the world, there cannot be anything that is real. Everything in the world has to have had some kind of a reason. And therefore, if the human being actually, as I said, they say the human being actually developed from a monkey. And the reason he developed speech is because he had some benefit from it. And the reason he developed some benefit, is not a real thing. We say that this is all complete garbage. The speech was selling as a godly creation together with the nefesh, with the human being. But I'm saying from the perspective of the world, they can't imagine anything real. Everything has some kind of a cause, some kind of a reason. Yet, as I said, we do not really subscribe to this 100%. We say it's not true. For instance, the human desire to live. So it says the human desire to live is something which is not based on reason. This is an essential thing. Where does this essential thing come from? It's a world. The answer is that this is in fact a godly spark in the human being. This is a truth in the human being. There is much to speak about it. But that is definitely a true thing.
Saying a human being is a true thing?
Huh?
A human being is not.
And the human being has an element of truth. As I'm pointing out, we pointed out many times that we all readily understand that the world, with all its species, with all its creatures, without the human being, remember we discussed this many times, the world without the human being, everybody regularly recognizes that it's totally insignificant. It's nothing. And with the human being, it's a big something. It's a very important thing. The human being changes the whole picture. How? And what's the difference? The difference is because all the creatures do not have an element of truth in themselves. It's all for some kind of a personal satisfaction. Only the human being has that capacity because he has intellect, and in his seichel he senses something that's true.
Because his world is true, he wants to stay in it?
There is a true meaning to his being. There's a true meaning to his being, a godly truth to his being. Doesn't need an explanation. Doesn't need to justify it. An animal lives, it has a justification for its living, for the services and whatever benefit it brings. A human being doesn't need to be justifying his existence. This is why I'm mentioning all the time the halacha is that a living person, even if he is extremely weak and is totally incapable of doing anything, of being productive, of being contributing anything to the world, to society, anything. He's alive. That life is very precious. And God forbid if somebody would shorten that life. He'd be guilty of murder. Makes no difference how weak a person is. Because this life is precious. This life is immeasurable quality. It's not measured by productivity, by some kind of a value, contribution of value. You understand? That is one of the clear things when you understand that, clear things that kind of reflect the godly presence in the world.
Sure. Maybe a mushroom. Saying how the man is Atzmi. I'm not getting it. See, maybe you have a mushroom for it?
What is this is the muscle.
Well,
A person, as long as he's alive, his life has no limit, has no measure. And if somebody shortens a person's life, even if he's totally incapable of doing anything, he's guilty of murder. It's a capital sin, the worst there could be.
he's not living for anyone else.
He's not living for anything else. He's not living, his life is not measured by contribution, but what he can accomplish.
Animal?
Oh, so
An
just
animal
alive,
is.
just life itself is just the very reason why.
That's right. What's the reason? It has an intrinsic, what's called intrinsic value. An atzmi is the element. That's called atzmi. Something that's valuable in and of itself.
How is an animal's just its life not intrinsic?
Animal's life is intrinsic value. An animal that gets sick, you put it to sleep. You know what putting to sleep an animal means? You shoot it in the head.
I'm saying it doesn't have some kind of perception of how its life
No,
is important.
no.
Something like that.
No, it experiences certain things. Of course, it experiences pain and all that,
Right.
but it does not at all perceive a truth in life. It doesn't have that capacity whatsoever. I mentioned it many times. An animal sees something. It sees it from the perspective of, what does it mean to me? Like we said it, am I going to be his lunch or is it going to be my lunch? A human being looks at things, from their true value, absolute value, a godly value. It's a godly creation. The din is, and from Maises from REBBE, you're not allowed to destroy anything. That's, a human being has its understanding. Because why? Because a human being, a Yid, recognizes everything is Hashem's creation. You have to respect everything because of its intrinsic value. It's Hashem's creation. Makes no difference what its contribution is, unless you need it for other benefits. But this is only the capacity of the human being. The animal does not know that.
Animal doesn't have the desire to live at all, like, in and of itself.
An animal does not have desire to live in the same sense as a human being. An animal has a desire not to suffer death, not to be affected, not to be, you know what I'm saying, the opposite of life, not to pain. But it does not sense the end of life per se. Okay? So this is, I just wanted to explain the words. He said this is not the atzmi. Atzmi is something that is intrinsic, that comes from, that is in and of itself. The inyan that nishtoikeg HaKadosh Baruch Hu livro Yisrael, that Hashem desired to create the world, did not come some kind of an external. Nothing can affect Hashem. What then is the birth of this desire? It's an atzmistic desire. It's an essential thing. Shuko atzmis, that's what the Rebbe says. Shuko atzmis de insoy bona. It's an essential desire from my Mevishn to create the world. To create the world and as we're going to see, to create the world and to be godlessness should be revealed in the world, as we're going to further see. It will help us to understand the further couple of lines if we discuss a little bit more this inyan that we say a human being has an intrinsic recognition of life. We said right in the beginning that the human being is categorically different than all other animals. As we said, the world without the human being, with all the animals, is totally insignificant. And the human being changes the whole picture. It becomes very significant. And you ask the question, the human being wants to live, the animal wants to live. What's the difference? There is a fundamental difference. The life of the human being does not consist only in the fact that I exist and I don't feel pain. The life of the human being is that he sees, he's constantly conscious and aware of the godly presence in the world. What keeps a human being alive? Like we say, when we wake up in the morning, what do we say? The first thing that gives a person, perhaps we are not even aware of it, but the real thing that keeps a person going and keeps a person, so to speak, enthused about life is not the fact that he can eat a tasty piece of chocolate. It's the fact that there is such truth in life in the world. It is his awareness and the cognizance of an infinite reality, of an infinite truth. This is what the human being stands for. His cognizance of Hashem's presence in the world, that is deep down, this is what is a person's life. We know, for instance, that a person, if he could be perfectly secure and sleep away his days and nights, he'd be miserable. Right? He wants to accomplish something in the world. What's the world to him? What's the world to him? The answer is, the world is something which represents a godly creation, a godly truth. And he wants to be part of it. And the more the better, the more accomplishing, the more the better it is. It's really enticing to him. And it's not because if he accomplishes, his name is going to be flying on the placard. It's just the accomplishment itself. He wants to participate in this reality. Okay, this is briefly the Indian. So that when we say that Nishtoikig HaKodesh Baruch Hu Livroisi, HaKodesh Baruch Hu desire to create the world. And this is a Tshuko Atzmis. What is the result of this Tshuka? The result of this Tshuka is that through creating the world, the essential desire of Hashem to create the world is revealed, so that the world represents Hashem's presence in Hashem's presence. The world represents Hashem's desire to create the world, which means Hashem's presence is actually represented by the world. Let me iterate this. We're going to come inside. There is no obvious reason why Hashem created the world, right? There's no obvious reason. What do we see? We don't know why He created it. We do see one thing, that Hashem desired to create it. So therefore, what does the world represent? What does the world stand for? Either nothing, or Hashem's desire, Hashem's presence. In and of itself, it's nothing. But if you go into the depth of it and say, what does it represent in terms of why was it created? It represents Hashem's desire to create. Therefore, it is the world, by its presence, represents, shows Hashem's presence, reveals Hashem's desire. Therefore, that means that as a result of creation, Hashem is present in the world, because His desire has been revealed in the world. And this is what I said before, that a human being, what is he really aware of? What is the essence of his life? That he sees the great significance in the world. Not the significance in wealth and in tasty food. Something infinite. And this is why a person would never give up on life, no matter how much it's a struggle. I was once observing on the street corner this old lady. It takes her about 5 minutes to cross the street. Really very fragile little lady. But the highest, that she was able to go out of her apartment and go down the elevator and walk down a couple of blocks to the grocery store, pick up a glass of, a quart of milk, put it into her push cart, and push it back to her house, to her apartment. This was worth the whole day. This is what life. This is. She wouldn't give it up for anything. This experience of life is tremendous. She was in the real world. She came out. She went to the grocery store and she purchased this milk and she was pushing the thing, and she, with all her less koiches, doing this task. There is something significant about this. It is not just to provide for oneself. It is participating in something real. This is what keeps a person alive. And this is what we're going to see now. We're going to see inside. So the Rebbe says like this. Why he would desire it, we don't know. However, but this we do know, that that he had this desire. Therefore, what is the pshat? That Hashem desired to create it. We don't know why, and we know that He created, that He desired. What does it therefore mean? It means in the world there is this shuko atzmis, this essential atzmis desire of Ein Sof to create, that there should be a world. The world represents a shuko atzmis. Which means that this was the tchilas hakavon, the very original, the beginning of the intent in the whole process of creation. Sheyumshach v'yizgala ba'olam lamato, that it should be drawn and would be revealed in the world here below. What should be revealed in the world? Bechinas hatshuko ha'atzmis de'en soiv. This essential tshuka of Ein Sof should be revealed in the world, because that's what the world represents. The world represents Hashem's desire. Now, it's if we knew the reason why the Rebbe created, so therefore the world does not stand for his desire, it stands for the reason for why he wanted it. But we don't know why he desired it. There is no reason for it. It's an essential desire. You follow what I'm saying? This logic.
Basically, there's something that you want, but you don't know why you want it. It's simply above reason, just because.
Just because. That is deeper than if you know why. If you know why, then it has a limited reason, a definitive reason.
So it's good to know, I can want something and I don't have to explain why I want it. Because I just like want it.
As long as it's not sleeping.
Right.
You can do anything you want.
Take away my tiredness and I won't go to sleep.
Okay, so let's go through these words and we see. So it says like this, that this was a Shuko Atzmis, and this was a Tchilas HaKavona, the original Kavona, Sheyumshach v'yizgale ba'olam lamato b'chinas HaShuko Atzmis Ein Sof, that this Shuko Atzmis, the aspect of Shuko Atzmis Ein Sof should be revealed here below. Shehu b'chinas, the Shuko Atzmis, what is Shuko Atzmis? Shuko Atzmis has no explanation. It comes from the essence. And this is what's called Shashuei HaMelech Ba'atzmusei. Shashuei, the word Shashuei means entertainment. Yeah, plaything, enjoyment. Shashuei HaMelech Ba'atzmusei, this is like the Melech, this is an allusion to something very a lot of operation required, but just this is the Indian what the Melech, so to speak, recognizes and enjoys the reflection of his own etz. This is the Indian of this chuk. The Shuko Atzmis is a Shuko Atzmis to create the world, and when that becomes revealed, this is Shashuy HaMelech Be'atzmusi. This is when the Melech, so to speak, enjoys, quote unquote, the revelation of his own essence. And this is what the significance of the world is. Yes. I'm sorry? Okay, that's what you're going to connect in a moment.
The Gilei of the king?
What?
The king is enjoying his Gilei? Yeah.
These three words, Shashoy HaMelech be'atzmusei. Are alluding to something very, very, you could readily see, very, very deep. Each one of these two words need to be explained on its own. What is Sha'ashuim? What is a Melech? And what is Atzmusei? Why all of a sudden it brings in the word HaMelech over here? We didn't talk about Melech the whole time. We're talking about Ein Soy Baruch Hu, we're talking about Kodesh Baruch Hu. All of a sudden talking about the Melech. What is implied by using the word Melech? All of a sudden. So, Mitzvah, we will elaborate on this and we will develop it as we go along. And right now we'll have to kind of satisfy ourselves with a limited expose of this union. Melech implies, the word Melech implies, just like a Melech in Lamata. What does a Melech mean in the world? A Melech is that Elphis, that entity that has absolutely everything. And it has everything, not because he has everything. If he doesn't have, he also has it. A Melech does not have wealth because he had accumulated a big bank account. A Melech always has whatever he wants to have. That's the implication of a Melech. He has it because, not because he has anything, but he has it because of who he is and what he is. By the very definition that he is a Melech, he automatically has everything. This element, you with me, huh? This element, that he has everything, and he has everything by virtue of who he is, not because he had accomplished anything, or he has accumulated anything, he has built anything, by virtue of who he is. That denotes, that reveals, that bespeaks, relates to what's called an essential greatness. What's an essential greatness? An essential greatness is a greatness that is not the result of some kind of accomplishment. Like a Melech has a cabinet. You know what a cabinet is? Has a whole office of ministers, secretaries, who take care of various things. And many minister of commerce, minister of foreign affairs, of law, all kinds of different ministers. Each minister is a minister or a secretary in his office by virtue of the fact that he's an expert in that field. You understand that, right? Somebody went to school and he studied commerce, so he can be appointed to be the Minister of Commerce. And so forth. The Melech is above all of that. Not because he studied all of these things. He went to all of these schools and he's an expert on all of these things. Not at all. What makes him a Melech? That's a separate question. But the point is, his office is such that he is above everything without any obvious accomplishment, not because of some accomplishment, because of just who he is. That, please understand, I'm going to say something, I hope you understand. That points to a character, to a supreme personality. You understand? This is not talent, capability, smarts, or strength, or physical strength. This is none of that. That points a very supreme quality of a person, of a human being. That is what justifies, so to speak, a melech to be a melech. It represents, so to speak, the core, the essence of the nation. That greatness is, I said, it's a supreme greatness. It's a greatness that is not based on any specifics or any accomplishment. Greatness, so to speak, for its own sake. And usually, this is the next step. You have to explain shashuim. So we've explained the melech and the atzmus. Shashuim is something of a unique element. Because normally the melech, because of his greatness, he is totally uninvolved in anything. He is completely on a higher plane and he's involved in his own thing. In order for the melech to accept, to become king, practically speaking, to reveal his kingdom, to reveal his function, he has to reflect on who he is and say, yes, indeed, I can really benefit this entire nation. By being there on the head of this nation, I can really benefit everyone and every member of this nation. This is where he recognizes, he pays attention, so to speak, to his own quality, his own greatness. Normally, he doesn't pay attention to it. He's involved in his own thing. Before that, he reveals, before he begins to relate to the people, to become king practically, first he has to relate, reflect, and recognize that he has that greatness. He can really benefit all of it. This is called shashuim. When he reflects and actually, so to speak, is in sense impressed by his own greatness. Okay. This is as it says over here, this is reflected in the fact that Hashem desired to create and to reveal his greatness in the world, to reveal this desire in the world. Okay. I did my best.
Again, so what is the So what is the atzmus?
I'm sorry?
What does the atzmus mean?
Atzmus means his essence. Because this is his essence. This is not because of some kind of accomplishment. This is because of who he is.
Funny, this is because of his own essence.
Mm-hmm.
So what's the this?
Huh?
What's the this?
I don't hear.
What's the this? What
This greatness.
Oh.
He's born better.
He's born better.
Thank you.
All right. Like I said, these are things which whole Maimorim on their own just wanted that we should have some meaning as we go along. You got a little bit? Okay, you got it?
It's time to talk about this in the morning.
Huh?
Rabbi, Grimrit. We're learning this a little bit in the morning.
You learned that.
This point.
Okay, very good. All right, now we're going to do some singing. Shashuim.
Shashuim is what again? Again, yell like Shashuim.
Uh-huh.
Shashuim is what?
Playing